Доброго дня, шановні
Good
журналісти,
afternoon,
шановні
dear
колеги,
media
шановні наші
representatives, dear colleagues,
Ми
speakers.
розпочинаємо роботу
We are starting our forum called Ukraine, the year 2025,
влаштували спеціально на
that we've organized exactly on the eve of the third anniversary of the full-scale war in Ukraine, in order to understand where do we stand now, how we are moving ahead.
Я коротко розкажу про формат
So let
нашої
me
роботи.
brief you on
Ми
the
маємо сьогодні
upcoming
високоповажних
format.
наших спікерів.
We are having
Їм є чим з вами
very
поділитися.
esteemed
Кожен
speakers with us
матиме
today. They
невеликий
have
після
something to
цього
share with you
буде
indeed,
сесія
and they will
Q&A.
have
Ви
their
можете
time,
поставити ваші
after
запитання, але ми
after
трохи
which
лімітовані
there will be Q&A
часом.
session.
І декого з наших
We are a bit
спікерів
limited on
маємо
time, and some of the
відпустити
speakers
трохи
will
раніше.
have to bow out a bit earlier. So I do hope the work of today will be productive, useful. So I am pleased to present our speakers today. Chair of the Verkhovna Rada of Ukraine, Ruslan Stefanchuk.
Прем'єр-міністр України Денис Шмигаль.
Denis Shmyhal, Prime Minister of Ukraine.
Перший віце-прем'єр, міністр економіки.
First Vice Prime Minister, Minister of Economy of Ukraine, Yulia Sviridenko.
Голова Офісу президента.
Chair of the Office of the President of Ukraine, Andriy Yermak.
Міністр закордонних справ.
Minister
Андрій
of
Сибіга.
Foreign Affairs of Ukraine, Andriy Sybiga.
Міністр оборони України.
Minister of Defense of Ukraine, Rustem Umerov.
Голова головного управління розвідки пан Кирило Буданов.
Head of the main administration of Intelligence Service, Kirill Budanov.
Служби безпеки України Василь
Head of the Security Service of Ukraine, Vasyl Maluk.
і голова служби зовнішньої розвідки.
And Head of the External Intelligence Service of Ukraine, Oleg
Ми
Ivashchenko.
працюємо в хорошому темпі, тому
So we are
з задоволенням
working at good speed, and without further ado, let me pass the floor over to Verkhovna Rada Speaker, Mr. Ruslan Stefanchuk, to tell us more about the legislative branch of government,
перспективи, які законодавчі
the
ініціативи
prospects and the legislative initiatives to be expected from them, and for which purpose. Thank you, dear Irina, dear colleagues. In order not to lose time, I am not going to read aloud all those figures and bullet points on this paper. Let me put it like this. On the third year of the full-scale invasion, the Verkhovna Rada of Ukraine continues operating as a single legislative authority, resolving every matter we've been bestowed with, primarily in respect of the shaping of the Ukrainian legislation. The last year, we adopted a huge number of legislative acts, mostly aimed at counteracting the Russian aggression. All the legislative initiatives being passed from the Defense Committee have been then adopted at the main hall, and we waste no time to do it. We want to keep it at the highest level. Another priority is to continue our political engagement through the adoption of relevant resolutions within the scope of our cooperation with parliaments of other countries. The third block concerns Euro-integration and Euro-Atlantic integration. This year, we adopted a huge number of legislative acts, and this has resulted, first and for all, in Ukraine's ability to open up the negotiations round. We've started our preparation for clusters. Ukraine has been doing everything so that, well, all of us, President, Parliament, the government, we all do everything to make this prospect European integration come sooner. Again, we adopted a lot of legislative acts. We are working as a parliament within the scope of the function of our participation in negotiations clusters. The Parliament has been included as a negotiation partner in the process of discussions around EU enlargement, and Parliament representatives are members of the negotiations group. They are clearly identifying the requirements to specific legislative acts within the meaning of Euro integration efforts. We are actively engaged in the solving of social support measures for our military, for the civilians. We are actively working with the government on a great number of initiatives, with special attention to a whole range of programs implemented by us in furtherance of our international commitments. On our way towards European integration, we have a range of financial obligations and commitments within the Ukraine facility-related cooperation with IMF. This is what is about our domestic level. But our Ukrainian parliament is also active internationally. We are actively shaping our cross-parliamentary track of operations, negotiations. Last year, together with the European Parliament President, we signed a memorandum on cooperation. Now we are implementing the document. We have this possibility of not just synchronizing our committees, but also doing everything to see that a branch of the European Parliament is open here, and the Ukrainian Parliament has its branch in Brussels to better work together on our way towards the EU. We are actively working with the US Congress through the consolidation in the past year of 28 speakers from the parliaments of the EU member states and other countries. We had a letter to Speaker Johnson, and he was quite instrumental in securing the support of our country in the past year. I would like to outline our engagement in big international associations and unions. We had participated in the meetings of the G7 parliament leader meetings. We were actively working in different types of parliamentary assemblies, and we do everything to see that the support of the Ukrainian parliament internationally remains high. Maybe in some countries, in many countries, probably parliamentary landscapes are shifting, but the support of the Ukrainian parliament has remained steadfast. This year, the Ukrainian parliament will do everything to ensure our key function, its implementation, as well as ensure international activities and international support of Ukraine. I'd like to thank everyone, all of our partners, for the support of our nation. It's extremely important, and the Ukrainian Parliament will be doing everything to see that support remain at this high level. Thank you, Irina, again. Thank you. Dear colleagues, I have been informed that right now we can welcome one more speaker of ours. Is going to join us online. Please welcome Commander-in-Chief Syrski, General Syrski. Good afternoon. Thanks for being with us. We will continue with the panel, and you will have your time later on. Meanwhile, I'd like to pass the mic over to Prime Minister Shmyhal to tell more about what Ukraine has been living with these days, what are the key challenges, and what are the prospects. Yeah, thank you, dear Chair of the Verkhovna Rada, dear Chair of the Office of the President, the Commander-in-Chief of the Armed Forces of Ukraine, leaders, government officials, partners, friends, media representatives, Ukrainians, ladies and gentlemen. The 3 years of Ukraine are practically over. Ukraine has withstood it. Ukraine has become united we are continuing our struggle, first and foremost, thanks to our the defense and security forces, our defenders who've been defending the country for 3 years, defending the Eastern European borders for 3 years, and we are thankful to every defender present here. Thanks for this opportunity already on year 3 of this war to have this chance of discussion about our country and its future. I suggest we support them with our applause. We've identified 5 key lines of activities along which we continue working as a government. This, first of all, concerns strengthening our defense and security service. Every hryvnia counts. We had trillion hryvnias last year. This year it will be more, 2.2 trillion hryvnias as Ukraine's contribution in our defense, 26% of our GDP, all of the budget collections in Ukraine, de facto. In order to develop our defense industry, by the way, the capacity of our industrial military complex grew 6-fold. For the time, we have some serious progress when it comes to the manufacturing of munitions, all sorts of artillery pieces, drones, military equipment, mines, shells. We've been investing considerable resource in the development of the production. We are developing innovative approaches and innovative systems to win this war on the battlefield, this war and 4 new approaches. Now, social policies for these 3 years, the government has complied with all social security measures, from retirement benefits to more than 180 billion hryvnias worth of other social benefit payments. We are going to index up, recalculate retirement benefits this year. We are enhancing our support of families of people in need. We had the winter support package this winter time to help Ukrainian families. This also has helped Ukrainian businesses. It is very important to have this type of economic support from the government. We are further working to increase our social policies. We work on a project to review our pension scheme system. We want social benefit standards in Ukraine to be made closer to that in the EU. And already this winter and in the upcoming spring, we will see new ideas from the government how to better support the Ukrainian nationals. So we are paying considerable attention to it. The third area of our priority concerns recovery and restoration. We explore traditional avenues related to the restoration of the power sector. We are also working to restore housing stock for people, the Geopolitical program that provides a roof over one's head and also spurs local and regional development. In respect of the power sector, we do the recovery efforts, we decentralize it, we work with partners to procure necessary equipment because the enemy is continuing its energy-related terrorist actions practically On a daily basis, we lost 10 gigawatt worth of generating capacity, and we work hard to somehow compensate for it. So all of these avenues, the recovery efforts, and the social support, the power sector restoration measures. Yes, we have also the fourth dimension, which we call Made in Ukraine. It is about supporting Ukrainian manufacturers, production facilities, cashback program with thousands of businesses joining the program. More than 2,000 producers have joined. This gives a twofold effect in terms of social support of people and also support of our Ukrainian businesses, creating a relevant production and consumption culture, because at the beginning of this war, more than 3.5 million jobs were lost, nearly a third of economy was lost, and we need to bring it back. We need to restore it also through business culture restoration. And there are results to report. And the first Vice Minister, the Ministry of Economy, will have more on that. The fifth dimension is our interaction with partners for the security and stability sake. This year, we have confirmed commitments for some $38 billion. And as the head of the parliament mentioned it already, we work with the IMF, we work within the Ukraine facility with the EBRD, with European financial institutions, with other international partners, and we move confidently along this line. We do understand it clearly that we need support from our partners. We are tightly coordinated in our efforts with the presidential office, with the parliament. The challenges we saw in 2024, the third year of this full-scale aggression, were immense, but we are sure we will be able to overcome them. Through unity of the whole of the people, of the whole of the society, you can see how focused and united we are around our president to move ahead towards our victory. The most important part for today is to consolidate, to unite our partners. It's important to have this dialogue with the media, with societies supporting us, feeling for Ukraine. And we will continue this work, again, with big thanks to our defenders. Together we will stand, together we will win. Glory to Ukraine. Thank you, dear Denis, and surely one of the key priorities for Ukraine today is the consolidation of international support, its strengthening. So a couple of words about situation and along this international track. I've asked Andriy Yermak, head of the presidential office, to talk that, and we hope also to hear from our foreign minister, Andriy Sybiga. Thank you. You asked many speakers what the diplomatic service has been living with, breathing with. Well, we are working intensively to reach the sustainable, comprehensive peace for Ukraine, and we are confident that this year, on the year 3 of this brutal Russian aggression, there will be a chance for us in this turbulent, challenging period. We are talking to our partners that, yes, unfortunately, it's time to fasten your diplomatic seatbelts. We should steer clear of emotions. We need to ensure maximum mobilization, primarily of the whole our diplomatic service, to reach this comprehensive, sustainable peace, to end this war this year, as the President has commissioned us. Throughout the 3 years of this Russian full-scale aggression, the diplomatic service of Ukraine was part and parcel of this effort to increase the defense capability of Ukraine, and we will continue working to ensure the relevant position of our country internationally, to ensure it has its place on the geopolitical map of the world. This is how it was, this is how it will be. And yes, rightfully so, we are in the eye of these global geopolitical developments, and the end of this war in Ukraine will definitely affect lives of every family in the European continent, across the Atlantic. We are very much sure that the security and safety of Ukraine, of Europe, of the United States are intertwined and cannot be separated. And yes, we are part and parcel of this transatlantic security. We are components of it, and all our external political activity is identified and affected by the realities of this war. As a minister of the country at war, I am always relaying this to our partners, and you said correct words when you mentioned the need to consolidate the international community. This is in the focus of our efforts. We need to see the unity of our allies in the support of Ukraine. Speaking of tactical steps, in the nearest future, there will be a General Assembly session. There will be events at the UN headquarters, also in relation of the third anniversary of the full-scale Russian invasion. This is an important diplomatic platform, and it's very important that our partners are able to clearly state their position regarding that, because these are the steps that brings peace closer. It's very important not to manipulate with such words as peace, comprehensive peace. It should be sustainable, comprehensive, just peace. This is what we do our best to relate to our partners. We are also working to broaden our contacts with the US side at the level of the head of the country. This is also a priority that we need pursued. We understand the role of the US in the process of finding just resolution of this war, and we will continue the pressure on the Russian Federation to make it pay a higher price for its aggression. We clearly aim at sanctions, we aim at the frozen assets. Another very important tool is the oil price. And yes, it is also about supporting Ukraine in whichever possible way, because in order to reach peace, Ukraine must reach it in a maximum strong position.
Thank you. Now the head of the Office of the President. Fellow Ukrainians, incredible Ukrainians, Mr. Chairman, Prime Minister, the Commander-in-Chief, colleagues, journalists, dear friends. Indeed, 3 years of this full-scale aggression war of Russia against Ukraine that has divided our life into before and after. The 3 long years of invincibility, the heroism of our Ukrainian nation, and unity. The unity which one might think would be close to an end, but still, every time we needed the unity because of the challenges we face on a daily basis, we kind of feel that we still have this unity, and it's the foundation for our integrity and stability. Today, we are getting united to protect our choice, our path forward our freedom. And you don't feel any fear when you have any controversies at home. But when you are at risk of losing your home, your house, so everyone in Ukraine is feeling that. And that is why we're demonstrating the whole world over all of those 3 years this example of bravery and fighting. 85 years ago in Munich, there were conversations as if, like, why should you die for the Danish people? But then the Dunkirk gave an answer to all of those questions. And I think today we are witnessing the rapid changes in the world, and we once again face with the question, which world do we want to live in? And surely I want to agree with the minister, and what he said is that the future of the Europe and the future of the world will depend on how the war will end. And that is why the position of the president and his whole team remains unchanged. There cannot be any compromises with our intelligence, with our independence, territorial sovereignty and integrity. And this is the positions of Ukraine, and nobody in this world more than Ukrainians is willing to have this peace, but want to have a stable peace, which is reinforced with the ironclad security guarantees, because we already had this bad experience of agreements or arrangements that unfortunately didn't work out, and just before the full-scale aggression, and this is true, we shouldn't forget about this, in the Munich, President Zelensky, and that was a path of a one-year direction, because the Russian forces were close to our borders, staying there for not a single day, but much more. And the president and the whole team was kind of saying that we were demanding for that motto that the world has used for many years, like never before, to once again make sure it had to be implemented. But unfortunately, not the preventive sanctions, not the weapons for Ukraine, nothing like that took place to deter this aggression somehow. Unfortunately, this aggression took place, and unfortunately, today we're talking about sanctions, but these strong sanctions, they started to work not at once. Today, we already have a significant package of sanctions. They truly work, but because today we truly see this ability, this moment when this war can definitely be stopped, and at this point I would like to once again reinforce that for Ukrainians it really matters a lot how this war would be stopped, because this is our future, which security guarantees would be the foundation for this end of the war. So talking about the international directions and the activity of the President of Ukraine, which is something that is supported by the Office of the President. So these are the principles that laid the foundation to all of the work we are doing, the representation of Ukraine at all the international platforms. And you know that over the past 3 years, the representation of Ukraine in a variety of international platforms is unprecedented, and the relations that we have built with all the continents of the world, well, these are unique. We've never had something like that before. Unfortunately, this is happening because of the tragedy, because of the war, but this is also about the tomorrow, about the future. Ukraine is currently respected in the world, and truly it's counted on as a very serious and influential and reliable partner for the future. This is the kind of profound aspects for our position. So this is the positions that we're using in our conversations with our partners. And definitely we are doing everything possible in order not to lose this unity of many countries. And surely you remember, and I believe that the first inauguration summit of the peace formula has collected over 100 countries around the Ukraine. Our goal is not to lose this unity, to engage new countries. And I'm confident that you have the questions and will be able to answer those questions. But surely, not all of those relations are easy, but I believe that we need to keep working. And globally, all of our partners today are with us, but the teams are changing, the elections are taking place, so we on our side need to work around the clock, because the front line, it's not where the fightings take place, but it's throughout Ukraine. There is political, there's economic front line, there's many others. So we have a very clear and strong position today, but still we will have a very difficult work that follows in order to finish this war with a fair and stable peace, which is important not only to us, but will be supported with the security guarantees based on the international law, based on our independence and our territorial integrity and sovereignty. Thank you. We thank to the head of the office of the President of Ukraine. I would like to pass the floor in continuation to the thoughts that we've just heard, that there is different front line. So we'll go to the economic front line, and we'll have Yulia Sverdenko. So how strong is the Ukraine's economy? What are the challenges? So, good afternoon, fellow colleagues, and I would like to start with the fact that you might have admitted, but it's strategically important. In Ukraine, we still have the factories being produced and developed in the field of agriculture, machining, and many other spheres. And it means that both the Ukrainian and foreign companies are supporting our faith and future in the victory with their own investments. Surely, our focus in the economic stability and self-sufficiency, the fourth year of the full-scale war, we are meeting with these figures of gradual recovery of the economic levels, because we had a drop of 30% of GDP. Now, or after that period of time, we had a 5% increase, then 3.6% increase, and this year we're also expecting an economic growth. Surely, this is because of the Ukrainian entrepreneurs that recovered their operations, who continue to work and develop, and surely this is thanks to our partners who, over the past 3 years, gave us the support in the total amount of $115 billion. The largest contributor is the EU, then second place goes with the United States, and their contribution in form of direct budgetary support of $30 billion. So it's important for us to continue this support from the partners and to focus on the Ukrainian producers. And the previous year for me was this all-around program Made in Ukraine that has united not only the national cashback program that was mentioned by the Prime Minister, but it was grants to support the machining, the processing industries, and other Ukrainian producers. So this year we shall continue with this program. We shall continue with the implementation of the program to overcome the unemployment, which unfortunately we have. We will continue with the retraining of the veterans for them to be able to adapt to the economic life. And definitely there will be energy stability programs for our business. These are our main tasks, surely. If you would ask about the challenges, the major challenge is the people, is the return of the people, and 90% of the business believe that problem number one is all about the personnel, is all about the people. So we have a separate ministry which is working primarily on creating preconditions for the return of the Ukrainians from abroad. So today we'll be talking about the peace in Ukraine, but I would like to focus and once again underline the statement mentioned by the head of the Office of the President of Ukraine. We need the security guarantees, and I'm looking at that from the standpoint of from the economic stability. Without the security guarantees, the business would not be investing in Ukraine, and those people around those millions of people, they won't be returning to Ukraine. So these security guarantees will have an impact on the economic growth. So this is a very important aspect while negotiating any peaceful relationship, and these talks should be coming before the other talks. I know that we are limited in terms of time, and you need to continue with the negotiations together with Mr. Yermak very soon. Yes, just for you to understand that this is the next round of negotiations with our U.S. partners. That is why we'll have to excuse ourselves. But one clarifying question to you, Julia, because I know that many journalists in this room are interested in this question. We know that in the victory plan that was presented by the President Zelensky, like one of the aspects in that plan was related to the kind of raw materials. I'm not asking you to give us all the details of this agreement, but could you tell us how prospective is this area? I mean, the raw materials, the processing of raw materials, as well as the rare earth materials. Well, you've recalled the victory plan of the President of Ukraine, and there's not only the minerals, the rare earth materials, the strategic other materials. There's also about security, the NATO, the deterrence of Russia, and many other aspects. But now the conversation is only about the raw materials, so I would just, keep the other aspects on the table as well. Yes, this is the framework agreement. Thank you for this clarification. So talking about the critical raw materials, truly, indeed, we have a titanium, lithium, uranium, and some rare earth minerals as well. And our task is not only to have an expert of those raw materials, but to have the investments for the processing, for the development of the production side. So we need to update the geological survey and to have more investors in the processing industry. We have the information that, unfortunately, on those temporarily occupied territories, there's a lot of critical raw materials, and we understand that these are the resources that, unfortunately, are under control of the aggressor, and the titanium could be used for the aviation, for the defense industry, for medical industry, so it will be used against us in this fight. So, of course, our task is that to make sure that all those raw materials that are located on the territories under control of the Ukrainian government would be used for processing as well and for our industries as well. Well, thank you. If you have just some more time, you can take a couple of questions and then you can go. Good. In this case, we'll have a small Q&A session since we need to make sure that we'll have all the possibilities for asking the questions. So, Ukrainian news, Українські новини, please. Sergei, I saw you in the room, so please, you have the floor. But don't forget about using the microphone. So good afternoon. Thank you for the possibility to ask a question. I had a question more to the head of the security service of Ukraine, but since there is a possibility to ask a question to the head of the office of the president, then maybe Vasyl Vasylyevich could amend the answer. We know that very recently the security service of Ukraine has claim that the Russian special services have kind of activated their work. So what are the major threats and challenges that you would underline? And surely if the head of the security service of Ukraine would be able to amend you, then that would be wonderful. Well, I cannot give any assessments to that because the Office of the President of Ukraine is not a law enforcement agency. We're not dealing with the security matters in the areas which are covered by the security service of Ukraine. But I can tell you what we feel right now. Unfortunately, that is something that we are talking with our partners. Without the success that we're counting on, and if we are talking about the 3 years, because previously they were telling everyone that, well, capture Ukraine in 3 days, that in a month, then, they have troubles with dates, and every time they came up with more and more additional dates, but we keep on fighting for over 3 years. But unfortunately, this Russian counter-propaganda and this elaborate machine that they're investing or infusing billions of dollars, well, that's a problem to many of our partners and to many other countries. So in any agreement about the cooperation, in any of the security agreements, and there's over 3 dozens of those agreements that we've already concluded, there is this provision on the cooperation in the field of information security. That's very important. And, they've never changed their goals, and today they will continue with doing that. I believe that Ukraine also has our own professionals dealing with that, so surely my counterparts will be able to tell you more about this. I wouldn't like to tell about things that are not within our area of responsibility, but I believe that the unity of ours, the unity which is demonstrated by the Ukrainian nation on those absolutely crucial questions, I think this is one of the major elements that prevent them from destabilizing our society. And they will be doing that. They will be posting more and more information. They will be attempting to kind of make us quarrel with one another or with our partners. So we need to preserve this wisdom, the stability, and not to go with it. And another very important thing, it's not a big deal whenever we are, debating inside our country about many things. But what's important is that on the foreign platforms, we would need to be united. Unfortunately, there are cases when it's not like that. And I would come up with this example of a strong democracy as the United States. When they are coming to Ukraine and we have multiple meetings with representatives of different political parties, and we highly pressure the bipartisan support in the U.S. Congress. They keep saying, all the time. And I think this is very important. And I think that our democracy, which is fighting for ourselves, that is the example we need to take into account, because the way we portray ourselves outside, it's important for further deterring of Russian provocations and attacks. Thank you. So we have a lot of journalists and a lot of guests. So please raise your tables. Please, Forbes Ukraine. I need to compliment with the words of Andrei Borisovich. Yes, please. I apologize. So I thank Andrei Borisovich for his statement. Let me to thank for the question. So the Security Service of Ukraine is the law enforcement agency of a special nature. We deal with counterintelligence. We are part of the defense forces, so we perform perform our certain activities on the front line, but in part of Russian special services, they continue their round-the-clock investigative and subversive activity. I can tell you the following. Over 3 years, we have identified 102 intelligence networks, including the top-level intelligence networks that were planning to neutralize the top leaders of Ukraine. Just last year, one day before the inauguration of Putin, these networks, they were trying to organize the assassination of General Budanov, and the control was provided directly from Lubyanka, and the Department of National Security was engaged in all those. So those who had to, who were responsible for the security of our top leadership, they were engaged in that. So we detained them already at a stage of the execution of that event. That was definitely a failure for them, and Putin has dismissed the Lieutenant General Beseda, his dearest friend. So we have all the evidences, all the papers. We've documented all the curators from the FSB, Perlin, and all of his personnel in the department that directly sent the targets, the goals. They were paying the money, but we were in control of these payments, so we collected all this information. They failed, and after that, the GRU decided to came up with our own actions, and in addition to the attempt to assassinate General Budanov, they were trying to assassinate me. They planned a terrorist attack in one of the construction companies, construction supermarkets, and at rush hour, after 6 p.m., there is a lot of people, so they were supposing to plant the explosives in these construction supermarkets. But thankfully, thanks to this covert and overt methods, we've managed to document everything. We cleared everything, and then the official representative of the GRU has collected all that, all the evidences. So we defend our land, and they are acting as a terrorist when they're trying to artificially tie us to certain crimes that we have no relation to, but we officially document all of their attempts. Surely they're trying to provide us, to impact us informationally. They conduct special information operations, informational psychological operations. It's important that our citizens would maintain their unity and abide by the law. We continue to work round the clock. Of course, I would like to mention, but I cannot uncover all the methods that we are using, because that would be a big present to the Russians. But the operational situation in Ukraine is under control of our agency, and it will be the same. So good, thanks to you. Now, Forbes Ukraine, you have a chance to ask your question. Greetings, Marco from the Forbes Ukraine. I have a question to the Vice Prime Minister, Yulia Sviridenko. In the beginning of February, the business asked to prolong the booking for the personnel and for the review of the criticality of the enterprises. So is the government planning to do that? Thank you. Well, in accordance to the resolution number 76, which defines the booking process, it allows a period until the end of February to review the criticality of the enterprise. And we're talking with the Prime Minister about the possibility to prolong this period of time so that the enterprises that can be considered critical based on the salary and other conditions. And once again, the salary should be no less than 20,000. And there is all the requirements in terms of expert revenues for those companies to be able to book their personnel. I think we've found certain balance with the booking procedure. This is a very complicated discussion, but still we found the balance that allows the business that truly works tax, that pays the taxes, to have a chance to book up to 50% of the total employees, if they're providing their own contribution to the budget, they were supporting the security and defense sector. So the booking continues, it's working. And if the companies are not able to review this criticality status until the end of February, we continue this conversation. Hopefully, we'll be able to prolong it till for 2 weeks. There was a lack of access to the registers because of the cyber attack. So we already mentioning that we will prolong this period till the 31st of March, because that happened because of the cyber attack of the enemy. Now, Levy Berech, Sonia Koshkina, please, you have a chance to ask your question. Thank you. I will have several clarification questions to Yulia and Borisovich. Yulia, you mentioned 350 billion. So does that, what is the total number? Because that is the territory of Ukraine. But what's the total number, total cost of these raw materials? How do we consider, how do we calculate the cost of the raw materials? Because we know that the previous assessments were done during the Soviet period of time. Andrei Borisovich, do we plan the privatization of Ukrgaz, Ukryvydobывание, and maybe the transfer of those companies to US? And who is going to sign the agreement on behalf of Ukraine? The Ministry of Economy, Ministry of Foreign Affairs, or the President? What would be the algorithm? I'd like to start, because there's only one final question that addresses my area of responsibility. So at first, let's have this agreement finalized, and then we'll define the authorized official to sign that. The rest aspects, the privatization and other things, that's not a question to me. There is the representatives of the government, so I believe they'll be able to answer this question. And this question was about the privatization of Ukrgaz-Vydobывание. If you'll take a look at this plan for the privatization for this year, this company is not mentioned. There is another facilities or organizations in this plan, so we don't have anything about this company. But I think everyone would agree with that you will see that the government at every session is trying to make sure that if there are companies subordinated to the ministry or to the state fund, to give them to the private owners. So if you will take a look, over the past 3 years, we had 18.3 billion hryvnia of income as the result of the privatization. So definitely we are interested in the search of the effective owners. 350 billion, this is the total cost for the temporarily occupied territories, and we continue the cost assessment. You are correct that the geological surveying information is a bit obsolete. So we had some of the information as of 1946, as of 1960. So unfortunately, we would be using this data so far. But once again, I would like to say that we need to do the geological surveying and confirm the stockpiles of the raw materials that are available to us. But what we can count is the resources that are available on paper and the cost that is available in the open sources. So surely we would need to reconfirm all of that, and we don't want to be public with regards to the figures.
Just a little addition. Clearly, we are considering today investments, primarily US-based, European ones, the investments in our country, and natural minerals, natural resources, the extraction, we consider it as a certain component of security guarantees, a very important one, the one that surely can and will work within the overall set of security guarantees, military and other. Yet still, this is very important, and because of that, we clearly continue this dialogue with our partners. no one has refused from anything. We have a normal working process going on. And yes, it can last for a day, for months. But please believe me, an agreement that we think may appear, it will have to correspond to the national interests of Ukraine and be of interest for our foreign partners. This is what we are working on. And I'd like to ask an excuse for me and Julia. We are having to move elsewhere to continue work. No, not to the US. It won't be enough time for us because it will take time. But we have another meeting scheduled in 20 minutes. Thank you. Yeah, thank you, Henri. Thank you, Julia. And we continue. With thanks for your attention, I'd like to announce another topic of our discussion panel. It's about the defense capacity and capability of Ukraine on the end of the third year of this war. Security and defense forces, our own military and defense production. These are all the topics under the aegis of the Ministry of Defense of Ukraine, and I'm pleased to pass the mic over to Defense Minister of Ukraine, Mr. Umerov. Dear colleagues, first of all, I'd like to start with words of gratitude, because to be able to defend, one has to dispose of resources and human power. And actually, we are on year 11th of the war, with 3 years passed since the beginning of the full-scale aggression. Yes, the war demands defense forces to be created, and that prompted us shifting some of our approaches towards making these forces. We have changed our position on how to create them. We want to provide our defenders with more opportunities as regards mobilization, as regards recruiting and military training. The recruiting, the military training topics, we invite private companies there. We try to test new approaches with a specific focus on practical skills, psychological resilience, and stamina. We want to improve our training standards, making them closer to real military action. We have introduced a new contract, 1824, which provides everyone aged between 18 and 24 to become to willingly join army and to select a troop, a brigade to serve in. In respect of recruiting, we are opening more training centers. We are currently offering about 50,000 consultations for those willing to join the army, and we expand our recruiting network. We also continue our digitization efforts. This is a reality now. It works for our victory. We have two very powerful apps, Reserve Plus and Army Plus, with more than 4 million active users in Reserve Plus and more than 400,000 of them for Army Plus. These are very important digital platforms for the servicemen, for the reservists. This helps us dealing with mobilization, recruitment processes. We also have Delta and Veja applications, very important for situational awareness of our commanders. They give our commanders a good command of the battlefield. There is also another step, which is about reforming the military health commissions. By 28th of February, the first stage of the reform will end. We are going to have electronic invitation for having medical checks. And then there will be another step aimed at facilitating such health checks for potential draftees without any ties to one's residence. Now, we have huge efforts going on within the scope of Ramstein formula. We are cooperating with more than 50 countries, regular time, in real time, online and offline. This has been done to facilitate shipments of armaments for us. In terms of defense coalition, we've set up 8 coalitions, topical, thematic ones. This provides us with an opportunity of developing roadmaps, and we actually have these roadmaps developed until 2027. Regarding investments from the partners, our country invested 55% of the total cost of our defense investments from its own budget. The rest came from our partners. We boost our fundraising efforts, our cooperation with partners. We've set up joint projects. We create new alliances with North European countries, with Baltic states, with Central European countries, with the Northern European ones. Now, as regards armaments, we've become the biggest drone manufacturer in the world. I mean, drones of technical level, strategic ones. We work to maximize our kill zone, because we need to stave off the advancement of the enemy. And exactly yesterday, we worked on the matter how to boost further our production. We've streamlined all the procurements on the topic, and together with the government and country leaders, we continue working to remain #1 manufacturer of electronic warfare and drone equipment. And 86% of the total drones consumed by the army are being produced or assembled in Ukraine. As the head of the cabinet already mentioned, that we are investing half of the 35 billion our financial capacity in the defense industry. We actively engage our partners for the purpose. We work to increase our production of drones, deep strike drones included, artillery pieces, explosive materials, and so on. And we also have a mega project to produce intercepting aerial defense drones, deep striking drones. This is a mega project we do together with some biggest world armament producers. We work to fulfill the frontline needs in armaments and weapons, and we thank everyone who is helping us to defend the country. Primarily, this is our people. We thank everyone for serving your country faithfully. Thank you. Thank you, and I'm being told we have with us online Commander-in-Chief of the Armed Forces of Ukraine, General Alexander Syrsky. Thank you so much for finding this opportunity to join us. Please, over to you, General. Good afternoon, dear ladies and gentlemen. We met just on the eve of the 3rd anniversary. And also these days, in February 2014, Russia began its aggression against Ukraine, starting with the Crimean Peninsula. 11 years have passed since then. Of these, The three ones were within the full-scale war for the independence of Ukraine. We continue keeping at bay enemies' attempts in terms of the numbers of weapons, military equipment. They still outnumber us. But let me tell you that the enemy is currently trying to squeeze, to push the units of Ukraine beyond the eastern, or the borders of the eastern regions of Ukraine, and they want to reach some sort of victory. Still, most of their plan remains unfulfilled. That prevents the Russian leadership from declaring victory. Our key task is to beat the enemy, to wage fight. I am proud of Ukrainian warriors for their exemplary readiness to sacrifice and fight. They are actually the defenders of the whole world. I also like to thank their partners for their military, political support, for the supplies of armed equipment, munitions, aerial defense systems, warplanes, other things we need on the battlefield. No secret, our situation with army supplies remains a challenging one. We are making very important solutions and decisions to ensure our armed forces are provided with everything they need. In conditions of the high-tech war, as the Russia-Ukrainian one surely is, we need to strengthen our army from inside. We need to be able to generate effective asymmetric solutions. We work to improve the supply of our army. We reorganize the management of the armed forces and the units. We are switching for permanently active corps. Inside the army, we are expanding our own production of munitions, drones. We have a clear priority for technical high-tech solutions. We work to develop UAVs, sea drones, and this is the experience that sometimes enemy copycats from us. We increase our strikes of their territories, of their arsenals, the military production facilities, oil refineries, other important facilities used by Russia in its war against us. We made them our targets. Deep strike that possibilities that Ukraine currently has can reach more than 1,700 kilometers, and we continue to work to make it further. In 2024, the special forces of Ukraine were able to carry out about 130 special operations, targeting some 377 important targets in Russia. In the past year, the government provided the front line with more than 1.3 million drones, and we want to increase the number. The enemy is feeling the brunt of our FPVs. We are expanding our fiber optic-enabled FPVs. Our task is to remain ahead with our technological advancement. We need to be able to introduce such non-standard solution. One of such asymmetric moves was our Kursk operation. It not only destroyed the plan of the Russians to create the so-called security zone along the northern borders of Ukraine, but now, 6 months since the start of the operation, we can say that the operation is fully complying with its stated mission, and we continue controlling quite a sizable piece of the Russian territory, effectively destroying not just the Russian troops, but also their North Korean friends. And thanks to army, we are able to move towards the just peace. Thank you. Thank you. We definitely will have to let General Syrski go to tend to his business. So I suggest we quickly move for a Q&A session for Rustem Umerov and Alexander Syrski. Please, Ukrinform, please. Tetiana Pasova, Ukrinform. I have a question to the Minister of Defense, Rustem Umerov. Dear Minister, President said of late that we are short on missiles and munitions for our air defense systems. How serious is the problem, and how we are going to cover it if the US cuts short our supplies? Well, the President commissioned that to stock up, to pile up the supplies, and we're working with our partners currently over joint solutions, including joint production, procurement via third countries. We're also working internally to boost our domestic production to somehow improve the situation. The situation is generally under control, and we will continue researching every avenue to resolve the matter. So at the moment, the situation is under control. And again, we look for more sustainable solutions of it. The U.S. assistance is very powerful, very strong in this respect, and we intend, together with partners, to resolve the matter. Thank you. And I think we have to give a chance to our foreign media representatives, many of them here. We thank you for your support of Ukraine. The voice of Ukraine has to be heard across the world. Please, Sky News.
Thank you. I'm Deborah Haynes from Sky News. I've got a question for the Foreign Minister, please. Are you planning to withdraw the Ukraine proposal, the Ukraine resolution, at the United Nations to make way for this watered-down US draft? Or are you standing firm, and are you worried that the US is trying to whitewash Russia's war in Ukraine? And a question for General Syrski, if it's possible, please. How is morale on the front line? The last week or so has heard extraordinary language from your key ally, Donald Trump, calling Zelensky a dictator, questioning whether Ukraine is to blame for this war. Is it impacting soldiers on the front line, or are they just fighting as normal? Thank you.
Let me answer your question regarding the Ukrainian resolution in the UN. In the context of the third anniversary of Russia's full-scale invasion, Ukraine did initiate in the UNGA a relevant draft resolution. Diplomatic work had been started well in advance, and by the deadline, we had 56 countries ready to co-sponsor it. A considerable number of nations, like-minded nations, that support Ukrainian side. But it is more about principles, because the Ukrainian resolution about the support of territorial integrity and sovereignty, but even more about the support of the international law and the UN Charter. Last Friday, in our Ukrainian representation there, the US party notified us of their intention to motion a very short, concise resolution, also in the context of the third anniversary of the war against Ukraine. These are not mutually excluding processes to start with, because the Ukrainian resolution focuses exactly on the date, on the agreed position that has been shaped in the UN since the beginning of the full-scale invasion. So this resolution has been registered as well, registered to be motioned for the special UNGA session. The diplomatic process is going on, and I myself, as a minister, had 22 phone talks within the past 24 hours. I also had communications with, well, and other sorts of exchange of messages with my colleagues, and we have support, because in order to have relevant decisions, we need to understand the position of the partners. And the partners that co-sponsored our resolution, allow me telling you that we have strong support from all our partners. Our resolution will be motioned for the voting procedure at the UNGA. Thank you. Now, Mr. General, maybe you did not hear the interpretation. Would you please allow me? Yes, I'd like to give the answer to the esteemed media representative.
Our servicemen is really high. We are ready to protect our country, our citizens to the end. Thank you very much.
Дякуємо дуже, пане Олександре.
Thank you so much, dear Alexander. And we relieve you. Thank you for what you've been doing. Glory to Ukraine, glory to heroes.
Що ж, я думаю, ще одне-два запитання з залу.
Yeah, I think we can take a couple more questions from the floor on this specific topic, and then we will move on. So please, Inter TV channel. Hi, everyone. Two small questions to the defense minister and to the commander-in-chief. Well, we let the... Oh, no. The commander-in-chief is still with us. Okay. So the question to defense minister, there's information in the media about US sort of being ready to cut off the Starlink connectivity. Is this a problem, and what are the alternatives for our army? And a question to Mr. Syrski. You announced the core system to be introduced. How it will be different from the existing system of managing troops? What will be the benefit? Okay, regarding Starlinks, Kirill Budanov is going to confirm or disprove it, but we are already working on it. There are alternatives. We are not going to disclose it. Together with the Ministry for Digital Transformation, Ministry for Strategic Industry, with colleagues from the MOD, we are going to notify you promptly when it comes. But there are alternatives. Thank you for the question. Yes, we are making conclusions from our active action experience. One of the questions concerns the performance of management of units, and this is exactly about ways of improving the whole management administration structure. At the moment, we have a structure that have temporary interim, like tactical task force, operational technical task force. And we need to also include bits components of the system that currently are linked to the training and education institutions within the MOD domain. There are certain shortcomings of the existing system, and we are improving it. The process goes on. We've started working on the topic already last year. We came up with a concept to reorganize the armed forces of Ukraine during the wartime conditions. We looked into details. We calculated all related models, correlated model, division-related model. For our circumstances, a correlated model has been found as the most promising and suitable ones. So we have 5 cores in mind. 3 of them have been already established, and they've already proved their worth. In short time, we will create the management of the commanding management of 3 more cores, and this will be created based on the operational command centers, headquarters of different forces. The most capable officers will be promoted to command the corps. So the process goes on. I do hope that it will improve the efficiency of our command and control measures. Thank you so much, and we have to continue with our panel. There will be more chance of posting questions later on. And now let me pass the floor over to the chair of the Intelligence Service of Ukraine. Please welcome Kirill Budanov, a person with trove of knowledge based on the analysis carried out by his service. So, dear Kirill, what are your expectations? What are the prospects? Please share the information you can share. Yeah, thank you. Hello, everyone. First of all, one has to remember intelligence service is always in charge of the assessment of the enemy. It's about understanding the enemy. And this is what it assesses. And forecasts are based on one's in-depth understanding of what the other party is up to. So as we reached the 3rd anniversary of the full-scale invasion and actually the 11th year of the war of Russian Federation against us, I would like to tell you some interesting conclusions. First of all, on the 3rd anniversary, the top management of the Russian Federation did understood the huge mistake they had committed back in 2022, and the failure had been because of the heavy reliance on the faulty data from the security services, the malls, the mall network and sleeping cells in Ukraine. Exactly, they based their activities on completely unreliable, faulty data, and that led to erroneous conclusions. Because of that, the Russian Federation started its special military operation with an intention of following this 3 + 10 days schedule, like entering Kyiv in 3 days, effectively quenching any resistance pockets in the country in the remaining periods. Meanwhile, we have the 3rd anniversary, with God's help, tomorrow. And this is the key conclusion for now. But again, analyzing the situation, I can tell that the Russian Federation has not relinquished its aim of this war. And we discussed that with Defense Minister and with Commander-in-Chief. Unfortunately, we will have to continue living with it. Yes, the thing has been going on for 11 years. There are advancements, but the pace of such advancement is absolutely not the one they wanted to see. And yes, they also run into issues as we have problems. So the whole thing goes with even less control of their side. As regards production rates in the Russian Federation, if we take main types of weapons and equipment, they are pretty much the same as in previous years, or sometimes are even lower. This is about key types of weapons. As regards munitions, guided bombs, Drone equipment, yes, they make huge strides ahead. They are ramping up the production, and they heavily rely on, well, we can now say it, the strategic ally, the North Korea, that is covering for practically 50% of Russia's need for munitions, artillery pieces particularly, artillery shells, sorry, and they are really doing it. 155 self-propelled howitzers, the MLRS systems, they are there, they're from the North Korea. The actual involvement of North Korean troops in Kursk region is already confirmed. And yes, the North Korean guys are supporting Russia in its war against us. As regards manpower numbers, mobilization efforts, this year the recruitment plan for new recruits in the Russian Federation was reduced by almost 100,000. And it remains to be seen if they are still able to meet the stated number. Yes, the Russian Federation would not denounce its goal, but they are increasingly run into bigger and bigger problems. From here, they switch towards more barbaric terrorist ways of using the available equipment and weapons like the missile attacks. This night one was a record one in terms of the number of drones used. This is a measure to instill fear. This is an act of terrorism. They are trying to hit civilian facilities. They often hit civilian houses, conscientiously or not, but they're killing rank-and-file civilians. Many times these are just retirees who cannot go as fast to a shelter as it would have been needed. There are people, veterans of the past wars, sometimes kids become victims. Unfortunately, it is so. But again, still, I want everyone to remember, initially they had wanted it as 3 + 10 days, and we approached the 3rd anniversary. So not everything goes their way. Let us continue, let us go ahead with confidence.
Thank you. And now I'd like to pass the floor to another person, official, who's also one of the biggest experts in the area, which we call balovna, literally translated as cotton, because the security service of Ukraine produces a lot of wonderful surprises for our enemy, both on the front lines and deep in the air. So I would like to pass the floor to Mr. Maluk. So, thank you. Indeed. Over the period of 3 years, we have acquired a priceless experience. So, talking about the aerial UAVs, we're working on the land, in the air, and in the maritime domain, deep into the rear of the enemy. We had received a special task from the president, so we have developed a special methodology and the tactics for the use of the unmanned aerial system. We are operating on the front line and deep into the enemy rear, that is 20 kilometers, then 20, 40, 40, 80, 80, 120, and over 120 kilometers deep into the rear of the enemy. And that is the deep strike operations. And for every of this range, we already have experienced operators, and we already have the special tools that they'll be using. Talking about the combat drones, then we're talking about 85% of the destruction of the enemy soldiers and its military equipment. Talking about the deep strike, well, in continuation to what Mr. Budanov has mentioned, well, the enemy is conducting missile and drone attacks, and this is the total acts of terrorism, while we are selecting only the legal targets. So we're talking about 48 targets, including military targets, military stockpiles and arsenals, the airfields with military aircrafts, and also oil production or refinery industry. Once again, this is a very big difference when enemy is engaging our electricity facilities. This is the acts of genocide. So this is one of the reasons for the issue of the arrest warrant against Putin. While we are targeting the oil refinery facilities that are officially used for the funding of the Ministry of Defense of Russia. So this is the official recognition of Russians, and we have documents to support that. And starting from the spring of last year, they have stopped their export of gasoline. They're sustaining a lot of damages. So in the US dollars equivalent, we're talking about something around 11 billion. That was the lost revenues amount. Plus, you all remember the arsenal in the vicinity of the Torapet settlement. There were a total of 4 earthquakes as the result of that, and we've destroyed 160 tons of enemy ammunition, plus half of the ammunition in 120-millimeter mines for the mortars. And this is something that their military is using pretty heavily. So there's a lot of other operations, and we're working together with the GUR, with the SOF and other units. We're not going to tell about all the details of our operations close to the front line, but today we have this initiative of the President of Ukraine that was supported by the Ministry of Defense and the Commander-in-Chief. So we are scaling up these top units that are working together with the Security Service of Ukraine, and that together with us are launching successful drone operations, including Kirillov Eres, Mr. Madar in 59th Brigade, then the 3rd Assault Brigade. These are the service personnel that are currently scaling up their wonderful experience. Talking about the maritime domain, I would say that this year was complicated, but together with our colleagues from the military intelligence, we've prevented the domination of Russia. And currently, our drones that are not only the drones that are working in kamikaze mode, these are the comprehensive platforms. They already have the machine guns, plus we have FPV drones. We are using a variety of systems for doing the remote mine laying. One of the last missions in the Kerch Strait, we've destroyed one of the barges, and it was used for the transporting of military equipment. And it's a high-range engagement, and they've managed to identify our drones at a certain period of time, but they were unable to destroy our systems because the AI is working, our systems is working. I'm not going to give too much of our details or specifications. Surely you understand the reason behind that. And the Security Service of Ukraine is the counterintelligence agency, so we deal with counterintelligence, a special law enforcement activity. And in my answer to the previous question, I gave you an answer regarding the intelligence networks and other threats coming from the Russian special services. But I have to mention that since the beginning of the full-scale invasion, we've issued the special decisions against many of the citizens. There's already court decisions. The court is procedurally independent. Surely we are not interfering with his job, but there's already the sentences in the form of imprisonment for 12 to 15 years. And in case of kind of top agents, they could have a live imprisonment, so they're working very good. As I've already mentioned, the operational situation remains under control, but a lot depends on our unity. That is why I have to ask all of our citizens and partners. But we have to understand that we're living right now at a very responsible time, so we need to accumulate all this experience and to hold on over the next weeks and months and to show the respective result. Thank you for your attention. Glory to Ukraine. We thank you. And we are coming close to the end of our session. We have one more speaker, and after that, there will be a Q&A session. So now I'd like to pass the floor to the head of the Foreign Intelligence Service, to Mr. Oleg Ivashchenko, and I would like to ask a question. What is the role of Ukraine in the geopolitical map of the world? It's hard to say anything about the achievements during the times of war, but I think one of the most important aspects is the unity and the cohesion of Ukrainians at this period of time and the identity of Ukrainians that we have developed. So thank you. Good afternoon, everyone. Today, all of us are witnessing the very significant tectonic changes in all the areas, in the military field, in political field, and this is primarily affecting Europe and then the world. And all of that is the result of Russia's destructive actions. The war that Russia started back in 2014, and already we have the 3 years of the full-scale war. And the Ukrainian foreign intelligence understands and tackles the challenges we currently face. We understand the challenges of the future. Now, I'm not going to mention the aspects that were raised by the previous speakers. Instead, I would like to say that we clearly understand what is happening inside the Russian Federation as of now. What are the plans? What are the processes? I mean, plans with respect to Ukraine, with respect to the other foreign countries we've studied. We continue to study the weak sides of the enemy and about strong sides of the enemy. We are aware of their plans, at least until 2030. Whether Russian Federation is willing to stop this war, no, they don't. Currently, the tasks they've had well, it's still are still in progress. Russia needs all of the territory of Ukraine, all of it land, and tomorrow they will need for other countries of the Eastern Europe and then the Central Asian countries. Now, as for the ceasefire, indeed, Russia needs that. Russia needs to hold its breath in order to recover the economy, in order to stockpile additional resources and prepare the armed forces to regroup their units and to proceed with a new aggression against Ukraine. Russia, well, without the Ukraine and the Belarus, and they've almost completed with the occupation of Belarus, they cannot consider themselves as the empire without Ukraine and Belarus. As of speaking of economy, it's weak, and it has kind of a declining trend, and everything they've stockpiled over the period of Putin's rule, they've already used that, and over the next year, we might see some difficult and irreversible trends in their economy, which is right. The enemy has to pay a very significant price for unleashing this war, has to reimburse the damages caused to Ukraine and to our partners. the rhetorics of Russian Federation with regards to the nuclear weapons and the intimidation of Europe, the intimidation of Ukraine, the attempt is all about attempting to create some positions for negotiation. Now, what do we see here? We can see some challenges, technical issues in terms of maintaining and servicing and securing this types of weapons, and unfortunately, this is not only related to the nuclear weapons, but also the nuclear power stations. We're talking about the technical condition of the Leningrad nuclear power plant, and over the recent period of time, there have been 7 emergencies at this nuclear power plant, and this could result in large-scale catastrophes. And the same goes for the new nuclear facilities that Russia has been operating, and that Russia is attempting to kind of help the rest of the world. As an example, there is Belarusian nuclear power plant, and there is constant malfunctions. And these malfunctions might result in a series of consequences for not only for Ukraine but to the European countries as well. As for the production of weapons, you've already heard the information from the head of military intelligence. But just to add, Russian Federation plans to produce over 7 million of large caliber artillery shells and mines. This is for this year, and Russia clearly understands that it produces more of those than all the rest of the countries together. The production of long-range precision missiles. So this year, they're planning to produce over 3,000 of such missiles. Now, these are the striking capabilities of Russia that are daily used to destroy our infrastructure. I would like also to mention some of the informational threats and challenges. This was already mentioned by the head of the Office of the President and head of the Security Service of Ukraine. Currently, we have a very significant, if not to say critical, level of threat. This is particularly related to our citizens of Ukraine that are currently located abroad, temporarily located abroad. This is also related to the leadership of our country, the security force, and Ukrainians. This is not the complete list of the challenges and threats that exist for Ukraine. The intelligence agencies understand all those challenges, and we counter them. Currently, one of the main tasks for the intelligence is to restore the territorial integrity and sovereignty of Ukraine and to ensure the sustainable peace. I thank you for your attention. Thank you. We still have a short period of time for the Q&A, but hopefully we'll be able to, have this Q&A. Let us have the Polish colleagues asking their questions. So please.
Hello. We are the Japanese media, Nikkei, and we are very much concerned about the North Korean threat to us, and that it's our neighbor. So can you tell us a bit about the situation on the ground in Kursk, where North Koreans are fighting against the Ukrainian forces?
Запитання про
Okay, so we have a question about the North Korean soldiers. Can we have a word to say from Mr. Kirill Budanov? Well, initially, they had around 12,000 of soldiers from North Korea engaged in operations. Currently, 4,000 of them are either killed or wounded in action. The replacement for them is being prepared. So you can minus 4,000 out of 12. and you will get the amount of North Korean personnel currently operating. Plus, the North Korea is supplying the 180 millimeter self-propelled howitzers, and their instructors provide the training to the Russian personnel. The same situation with the MLRS with the caliber of 240 millimeter. And currently, Russian Federation has received 120 pieces of equipment of both types, so 240 total. And once again, you should also mention that the North Korea started to actively use their operational tactical missile systems type KM-23. The first employment of this missile system showed a low accuracy of these missile systems. Then, with the support of Russian experts, they've conducted a number of retrofitting operations. So currently, the accuracy has become acceptable for these types of weapons. Then, in accordance to this year's plan, the North Korea is planning to supply 148 missiles of this type to Russia. And I would like to compliment also that the involvement of North Korean military units by Russia also produces a destabilization of security situation in the Indian Pacific region. And what North Korea will receive in return for the supply of their soldiers. And the Ukrainian side has no doubts about it. And based on our intelligence data, North Korea will receive more of their missile technologies. Then the military-industrial complex will get a boost as well. Plus, there is a number of other steps with regards to the combat experience and further increase of threats in this region. Now, that requires a solid response by other countries in the vicinity of North Korea in the same region. So we have one more question from Obozrevatelь, please. Good afternoon, Lesya Gasic. A question to Vasily Vasilyevich. Today you've mentioned that this war, the present war, is the war of technologies, and we can see that the enemy keep advancing technological solutions, and currently our military are saying that there is a lot of fiber optic drones. In the beginning of the year, there was a statement that they found a drone capable of destroying our maritime drones. So can they bring back the maritime supremacy? Well, thank you for the question. So let's talk about the fiber optic technology. Indeed, in the course of the Kursk operation, the enemy started to employ a lot of fiber optic drones that cannot be countered by the radio electronic warfare systems. But a decision was already made at that time, and currently many military units are implementing this solution. So I'm not going to make public the amount of equipment and personnel that are operating with technology. There is no domination of Russians. Yes, there were a number of days when Russians managed to destroy 24 pieces of hardware and equipment in one day. But on the other day, we've destroyed twice as much of Russians' equipment. As for the drones that they think can effectively counter our own maritime drones, well, that's Russian propaganda and informational psychological operation. And we have not faced any of the drones alike. And the solution with regards to their aviation, we kind of found that. We are working on their helicopters. There's a lot of casualties in terms of personnel, in terms of helicopters. So when they'll come up with something with the drones, we'll get a solution on that as well. But let me give you one example. The Russians are actively and constantly using their own intelligence drones. That's Zala, the Supercam, and Orlan. And Supercam is the most progressive, and it can produce the coordinates with the accuracy of 1 meter, and they can adjust far. And the Supreme Commander-in-Chief has issued us with the task, so we were tasked to find a solution to counter those drones, and we found that the cost of this intelligence drone is over $100,000, while we developed with an FPV aircraft with the cost of 700 drones, and it effectively counters that intelligence drone. And there were days when in Kursk we've managed to destroy over 20 intelligence drones per day, and then the commander-in-chief Syrskyi were saying that the enemy have lost the possibility to produce accurate fire, and that is something that defends our personnel and our military equipment. So this is just an example that their know-how are working, but we are finding a genius solution how to deter and counter them. So I would like to thank Mikhailo Fedorov and the Ministry of Digitalization, all the private sector entrepreneurs, all those who are working in this area. I'd like to extend words of gratitude to that. But they have to understand the main priority, that is the victory over the enemy, and not the revenues, because there's agencies, public agencies, that are making sure there is a control for everyone to, keep working with and abide by the law. You have mentioned countering these maritime drones, and Vasily Vasilyevich was absolutely right mentioning that is just a propaganda. They've attempted several times to use Mi-8 aircrafts, helicopters, to launch FPV drones. Now, in two of the three cases, it produced an explosion of the Mi-8 helicopter. So they stopped any further attempts of using those FPV drones from the helicopter. So this is just a propaganda. Now, talking about our maritime drones, we are already able to launch FPV drones like it was in the case in Donoslav, when we launched maritime drones, and we've managed to launch FPV drones from those maritime drones. Just a couple of questions more, because we are limited in terms of time. So please, the channel, Crane. First row. Pass the microphone, please. So the TV channel We Ukraine. I have a question to Andrei Sabiha. You've mentioned that you were tasked by the president to finish the war in 2025. So do you think that China is interested in that? Because you had a meeting with your counterpart from China during the Munich conference. Have you agreed about any further contacts, maybe the visit of the delegation of China to Ukraine or our delegation, different levels? And do you think they are ready to become the guarantors of a dialogue to put an end to this war? Now, the Starlink, talking about the Starlink, do we had any cases when the Starlinks went offline over the past week? Well, thank you for this question. I'm confident that China is also interested in the fair end of this war, because Europe for China is the largest market, and so they are interested in the neutralization of any destabilizing factors on this market. We had a very productive meeting with Mr. Van Ee, the Minister of Foreign Affairs, and it was during the Munich conference. It was very fruitful, and I'm confident there will be a continuation to that. We have extended official invitation to Van Ee to visit Ukraine, and Andriy Yermak, the head of the Office of the President of Ukraine, was participating in this meeting. There was a conversation regarding the contact at the highest level in between the representatives of our countries. We have stated our interest, as well as the range of questions that the leaders of our countries might be discussing. And as we've also discussed this situation, around the fact that China is currently holding the chairmanship in the Security Council sessions, and we discussed some of the activities related to the third anniversary of the full-scale war. We are grateful for the support to the Ukrainian sovereignty and territorial integrity in the statements of China, and we hope that the role of China will also be important and active, particularly in terms of bringing the fair peace closer. We are confident that China has the capability to do so, because this is the country with global capabilities and opportunities, so we will continue with this dialogue, and special attention has been paid to the trade and economic partnership. In spite of Russian aggression, we have an increase in the trade indicators, and we have informed China about the attack against the sarcophagus over the Chernobyl nuclear power plant, and the role of China, the response to Russia's blackmail in terms of the use of nuclear weapons, as well as their employment of weapons against the nuclear facilities. It's very important. And also it's important to have their role in terms of the return of free shipping and merchant shipping in the Black Sea, because we're also supplying a variety of products to China. So we have discussed a whole spectrum of those aspects.
And there was a question regarding Starlink. As of the moment, not a single system, or systemic work to block the Ukrainian Starlink is there. So please be calm. Actually, for almost a fortnight, there have been attempts to block the so-called gray Starlinks in immediate vicinity to the contact line. It was done from this Russian side. There were times when the whole units would be disconnected. Yeah, thank you. Thank you, dear colleagues. We have to wrap up this forum, and I would like to thank our speakers for finding time to be here. I'd like to thank you, dear media representatives. And a brief, important information. We are expecting you back in this room in 20 minutes, because the press conference of President of Ukraine, Volodymyr Zelensky, will start at 4:30.